Okay, recording this video on Sunday, the 20th of April 2025. Just gone to 10 p.m. Do hope you are doing well. So it's the weekend, time for another weekend futures market recap, where I go through 15 of the largest futures markets and I show you what I'm seeing on my charts. Except this weekend we're traveling. We're in Waikiki at the moment, staying in a nice hotel, but the internet connection isn't great. I think the hotel has a 90% occupancy rate at the moment, and so I'm just going to go through the Emini charts really quickly, just give you a little bit of an update. I hope that's okay with you. Anyway, hope you had a good week's trading. It's a shortened week, obviously, because of Easter, but we're back into it on Monday. I'm going to be on a plane, unfortunately. So, Emini charts. Let's talk about, first of all, the volume. This was a very quiet week this week. This is better volume on the weekly chart of the Emini, daily data only at es.d. And we did 5.2 million contracts in 4 days of trade, which is pretty light, especially compared to what we've seen over the last month and a half, with in some weeks doing over 12 or 13 million contracts. 5.2 million, yeah, pretty light. But I wanted to point this out. This is trading since COVID, so since 2020, and we've got two, maybe three bottoms that we put in previously. So we've got the COVID sell-off here, and then we had a nasty sell-off during 2020, but it progressed a little bit differently. Then we had a little bit of a sell-off here at the end of 2023, and then the current one that we're going through. One of the things I'm pretty keen on is the theory in Elliot wave that bottoms and correction moves alternate between two different patterns, short and sharp and we bounce quickly, or prolonged where we find it difficult to make the bottom and it's a series of moves down like a complex correction. And the reason why Elliot Waves says that we alternate between these two types of patterns is because psychologically, if we were always going to have severe drops and then quick bounces back up, everybody would learn to trade that pattern. So having alternating patterns confuses the market and you're always fighting the last battle. So here we go, the 2020 sell-off that we had, this was a severe drop and then we bounced really quickly. You can see the volume patterns here with butter volume. We had super high volume crashing down with extreme selling, and then we had extreme buying at the low with a support on the weekly time frame here on better sine wave, and so we had a dump and a retracement quickly. It was a V reversal like that. But 2022, the move was a complex reversal, so we made this low over a period of 4 months or so as we came back into this and tested down and down and down. And at the bottom here, the V reversal was extreme selling and then extreme buying. So the white bar and the red bar, and that's what better volume is measuring here. But with the complex correction, you can see we had churn bars, which are these blue bars here. High churn means that we have high volume, but relatively low range. So the market is churning, and you can see we had blue bars down here churning, and then again, as we tested down here in the pattern on better sine wave, was we had a break through cyclical support, we tested back up, we bounced off cyclical support, and then we just did a series of bounces between resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance, support, and then finally we broke into an uptrend above resistance, bang, and we're away. This little correction that we had here wasn't as severe, but you can see it had more of the look of this V reversal here where we dumped quickly and recovered quickly. So white bars down, red bars up, and then we made new highs. And what I'd like to know is for the current correction pattern that we're going through, what is it going to be? Is it going to be a V reversal like this, or is it going to be a complex correction like this where it's going to take some weeks and months to get out of the funk and then break into an uptrend? So this was a V reversal, this was complex. Could we say that this was a V reversal here, and therefore the move that we're going through at the moment is going to be more of a complex move, so breaking through this support and then we have to go through this backwards and forward support resistance? My money's on this type of a pattern because of the way that we broke the last support on better sine wave through the daily chart, that we're going to have to put in a whole series of pullback to end of trends and pullback to end of trends, cycling through the time frames until that bottom is made. It's not going to be a short sharp B reversal like this, we get back into a clear uptrend. So let me show you that daily chart here. This is better pro-am and better momentum on this side of the charts. You can see the sell-off that we've had down to 5,000 and below. Blue professional bars, the background's in blue, so big pro bars, meaning super high average trade size. The professionals are really interested down here. We had our exhaustion selling the bullish divergence, and this bullish divergence is relatively close to the zero line, so we're going to have to put in a flush pattern, and a flush pattern happens midway between the exhaustion pattern and the halfway move. So it's a yellow dot. We got any on this chart going back a little bit there? Here we go. So this was exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, and then we flushed with midway move. It's not as severe as the exhaustion pattern, but it's not close to the zero line. So I think we've still got to see that in the next week or two, that we have a quite nasty reading on better momentum with a yellow flush pattern down here. And then when we look at better sine wave, the way this is playing out, we've broken through supports on the lowest time frame and on the intermediate time frame, and we need to make pullback to end of trend on those time frames, and we're coming back up. So you can see on the lowest time frame, the fast and the slow lines here have turned direction. They're heading back up to plus 100, and they're going to come back down and make pullback to end of trend somewhere between where we are today and this 58.75 type level up here. We'll have a resistance and come back down. On the lower time frames, we're putting in those pullback to end of trends, but we've got to go see this on the lowest time frame, probably on the intermediate time frame as well, because we're still below support in the intermediate time frame, and that's going to sync up with support on the highest time frame here. So I think we've still got to make quite a few moves up and down. Is there anything in terms of economic releases in the next 2 or 3 weeks that are going to be significant to drive that activity? Yeah, possibly. But it could equally be news releases about tariffs going well or going badly. We could get an agreement with Japan and Korea maybe in the next 10 days. But we could also get a ratcheting up of tariff wars with China and, I don't know, the EU. So who knows what's going to drive that pattern. But because we have these moves to make, I'm leaning towards the complex correction type of move before we break back into an uptrend. And in my mind, we'll break back into the uptrend because the professionals were active at the lows. They weren't active at the highs, they were active at the lows. So they're buying the low, they weren't selling the high. So daily chart, 135-minute chart, and you can start to see some of these patterns rippling through. So here we go on this lowest time frame on 135. We put in our pullback to end of trend. We're going pullback to end of trend on the way down here. We need that move to complete. And then when we look at the volume patterns, yeah, we got some blue professional bars that came in at 5,000. That's good. But we didn't put any volume patterns. No exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence. There's a bullish divergence close to the zero line, and we put in a flush. So we've not seen that on the downside. So I still think we're going to see a nasty volume momentum pattern on the downside. Whether it's going to be this move, pullback to end of trend, or when we come back up and make the pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, because again, on that intermediate time frame here, the support is miles away. We've got to put in pullback to end of trend. So we've got at least another push down this week, and then we'll come back up, and then another push down, whether that happens this week or next week. 45-minute chart, there's that pullback move that we're making. And again, on the downside here, in terms of better momentum, with the exhaustion sell signals, that was getting the move going. We've seen nothing like that on the downside yet, so we've got to go find those patterns. Yep, some blue professional bars coming around the 5,000, which is great, but we've got to go see those exhaustion patterns down here. So is it going to be on this pullback to end of trend, or is it going to be when this highest time frame, these lines, these thick lines, come back up to plus 100, form a pullback in a downtrend on the highest time frame here and push back to the 5,000 type level. And then 15-minute chart here. This is all the resistances that came into play this week. So the beginning of the week marked by the solid vertical yellow line here. I've got better squeeze on this chart, which shows this pattern here with a cyan box when we have a squeeze, when all the support and resistance lines come super tight together and the price is really tight and close, and that's what we had there. All of those resistances coming in together, and then we sold off there. In terms of better momentum, you can see with the low volume reads that we had no particularly directional signal here. Better momentum, all of these better momentum signals have been on the way up. They've not been on the way down. So a quiet week that we had this week is next week going to be a super busy week, and we'll get some real activity and real moves and volume. Could be interesting. Lastly, 13,500 tip bar chart here. Again, this week's activity, not a lot going on. No volume patterns here. We topped out. This was the almost 10% move up. Tariff news here. We just tested into those highs this week a couple of times. We sold off. We've got some blue professional bars. Picked it up at 52.50. Here, pushed it up. But this is killing fields. So this is a pattern where we don't see the blue professional bars on the way down. They catch it here and force it up. And so people are thinking, oh, the bottom's in 52.50. And during this activity, they're getting long. And no, during that activity, the professionals are taking all of this activity and just selling little chunks. We can't push back. And the move through this support 52.50 into another downtrend, that's the signal, and we'll get a nasty break when that happens. So let's look for that in the first couple of days of trade. 52.50 being broken to the downside and us causing an exhaustion sell type signal as we test into 5,000. On the sine wave charts, support, resistance, support, resistance, support, playing around this level here. We did break through it. It's not a clear bounce from here. Big things happen at triples. This is the first triple support come in here. Yes, we've had a little pullback to trend on the low on the intermediate time frame. So this is starting to hold, but in terms of volume patterns, that for me doesn't look really good. That's not particularly right there. But we'll see. Let's see the break. Is it going to break back up through 53.51, find resistance on the highest time frame here and come back down? Just wait. But breaking through 52.50 here, if that happens, that'll be an explosive move to the downside. So there we go. Some thoughts this weekend, Easter weekend, on the E-mini. Going to be in a plane heading back to Australia, so I'm going to miss some of the fun and games, but be back into it as soon as I can. I just think this is going to be a bit of a drawn out bottom this time around that we make, and just be patient and wait till we get those exhaustion sell signals before the bottom is really tested in. Anyway, just my thoughts. Hope your trading is going well.